Call the meeting to order at 7:05 p.m. Okay, first item on the agenda is public comment. Do we have any public comment? Do we have any public comment? One last time, is there any public comment? Okay, hearing no public comment, we'll move on to item number 4. Approval of minutes from the March 18th, 2014 meeting. Can I have a motion to do so? Motion by
Second.
Al, second by Len. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Page 10.
Page 10. Well, that's almost all the way to the end. That's not bad. Wow.
Getting better.
Whereabouts?
We have two different spellings of siding. Yes, we do. Line 1, line 4, and line 5.
It should be citing S-I-T-I-N-G.
Yeah.
Okay, so line 1, line 4.
It's correct on line 1.
Well, it's correct, the first spelling, but the second spelling it's not.
It's used twice in
Yes.
line one.
Yeah. See
Oh, okay, yep. Perfect.
Yeah, it's not research. And line 4, and line 5.
All right, perfect. Do this. Okay, so the second in line 1 and line 5 is incorrect. All right, perfect.
And, yeah.
Okay, Lena, you have those changes? Any other changes or comments? No? Okay, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The chair votes aye. Motion passes 6-0. Next item on the agenda, item number 5, for Selectmen's report. Attended the Meet the Kids night at the Shelton Boys and Girls Club to meet the kids of the Keystone program. I was very impressed with this group of young men and women, and I look forward to a group like this at the Seymour satellite in the very near future. Attended the Read Across the Valley breakfast, and then was given the opportunity to read to a first grade class at Chapel Preston School. Selfishly, it was my daughter's class, so that was a lot of fun. I very much enjoyed the time I was able to spend with the kids and look forward to going back in the next few weeks to read to them again. Attended several meetings on the merger between Valley Council of Governments and COG CNV. Talks are moving along, and I expect we will be approving the MOU at our meeting next week. This will be the first step in a process to bring the two groups together. I expect I'll be bringing an ordinance to the board in the next month to allow Seymour to formally make the move to the new COG effective January 1st, 2015. Attended CCM Day on the Hill in Hartford. I had a chance to speak with and listen to many key lawmakers on the state level, including the governor, lieutenant governor, and leaders from both the House and the Senate. We also discussed and reviewed CCM's legislative agenda for the session and key initiatives they are pushing to benefit the cities and towns they represent. Represented the town of Seymour and CCM and faced the state this past weekend. I was given a chance to speak about CCM's legislative agenda, as well as my thoughts on several key issues facing the state of Connecticut, including economic development and the minimum wage issue. It was certainly an honor for me to have the opportunity to do that on behalf of the town and CCM. Met with representatives from Winters Brothers to continue discussions regarding the town's recycling contract. We've had the chance to make a few updates that will save the town money in the long run and are looking at several others. Today I met with members of the Police Department and the Communications Commission regarding potential upgrades and changes to our communications system in town. Conversations will be ongoing, but I expect we'll have something for this board to discuss potentially as early as our next meeting. Spent the last few days preparing for a bond rating call tomorrow with S&P. Our hope is to show the rating agency all the management, operational, and financial changes that have taken place over the last 2 years. While we may not get a bond rating increase this year, our goal is to continue to put ourselves in position for the next time we have to go out to bond. And then finally, I'll be presenting a summary of the town's current financial position on Thursday night at the town budget hearing. I'll be focusing my presentation on the state of our debt service, fund balance, capital plan, and our overall philosophies for the next 5 years. So with that, I'll close the first Selectmen's report. And could you mark Nicole as arriving at 7:08 p.m.? Okay, next item on the agenda, item number 6, approved consultant for the 2014 Small Cities Grant application. In your package, you all have a very long agreement. I'm not going to read that because I'll be here for quite some time reading that. Has everyone had the opportunity to review the agreement?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Does anyone have any questions or concerns with regards to this? And again, this is just an agreement for the town of Seymour to enter into contract with Lisa Lowe and Associates where she will be our representative for the Small Cities Grant process. Lisa has been our representative. This will be her 4th year representing the town of Seymour. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to accept the agreement as presented and to allow myself to sign the agreement.
So moved.
Motion by Len, second by Anne Marie. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The chair votes aye. Motion passes 7-0. Next item on the agenda, item number 7, discussion, take possible action on fiscal year 2014-2015 capital budget. As you know, the Board of Selectmen is responsible for determining the capital plan. We are in year 2 of our long-term capital plan, where we put away $100,000 a year. We use short-term borrowing to allow us to spend about $300,000 worth of stuff. This budget that I'm presenting to you is my preliminary capital plan. I wanted to give it to you tonight to give you an opportunity to digest it, to review, ask any questions that you may have. This may change depending on the discussions that I have with the Communication Commission and the Police Department. As we all know, there are some issues with the portable radios and getting coverage in certain parts of the town. One of the suggestions has been to move to a simulcast system. The cost of the simulcast system, could be up to $300,000. If that is the case, and we make the determination to move forward in that direction, it will take up the entire capital plan for the year. So if that is not in the plans for this year, or if it's not going to be the full $300,000 or a smaller amount or something along those lines, this would be what I would recommend to this board. I'm going to ask at our next meeting that if nothing changes, that we move forward and vote on this, or if we're going to move forward with the simulcast system or some variation of that, we'll have those discussions at that point. So with that, are there any just quick general questions for now? And again, I know you just all got this this evening, so money's spread out over several different areas. A couple of the key areas out of my department, we have $30,000 for ADA upgrades in the downtown area, which could change if we use LOSIP for that. Also, I'm recommending $5,000 from Unicast system, which is something that will go hand in hand with the 10-year strategic plan. I won't get too in-depth on that because I don't want to steal any of Tricia's thunder. $90,000 for a new F550 Mason body dump. $5,000 for plow blades for the Public Works. $15,000 for flagpole lighting at French Park. Again, another $20,000 for oil tank removal. Our plan is to spend about $20,000 a year to continue to remove underground oil tanks. Public Works has the potential need for a boiler replacement at a cost of about $46,000. There is, Police Department equipment, license plate reader, a second one for $17,500, as well as a 2-year commitment for portable radios at $16,000, which is spelled wrong. Which one? Oh, mobile, okay. There's a typo in there, so I apologize for that. The fire department has some different equipment needs in there, which I went through with the chief. Under emergency management for truck, the $15,000 is not for a truck. It's to paint the emergency management truck. And then the one thing that's not included in the $300,000 is I've recommended another $125,000 in the proactive road account. The Board of Finance has actually recommended $150,000. And again, in that line, they would have the final say. So again, I'm going to give everybody the opportunity to digest it. You can take a look at what we're looking at over the next 5 years. Again, our target year is fiscal year 17 and 18, where we're going to see about a $900,000 drop in principal and interest. And then year 2021, where we'll see a drop of $1.2 million in principal and interest. So those are the years that we are gearing everything for. Any questions on that? Next item on the agenda, item number 8. Discussion, take possible action on the waiving of Henny penny permit fees. This is something that we're revisiting simply because I don't think it was made clear when we passed the tax abatement for Henny penny. As we know, one of the features of the tax incentive plan, and it's on page 5. Additionally, and I'm reading from the tax incentive plan itself, additionally, the Board of Selectmen on a case-by-case basis and dependent on qualifying factors may waive building permit and other application fees in whole or in part, or may provide in-kind services such as road widening, storm drainage improvements, sewer hookups, or similar improvements related to the development project at a reduced or no cost to the applicant. During our conversations about Henny Penny, we had talked about the waiving of the building permit fees from the town's perspective. We cannot waive the state fees, but we can waive the town fees. We went back, we looked in the minutes. It's not reflected in the minutes. We'll be signing the contract with Henny Penny. The board did approve us entering into that contract with them. But to be on the safe side, Rich asked that we come back and just have the board reaffirm the waiving of the town's portion of the building permit fees. Those have already been paid by Henny Penny. The town would be reimbursing the money on that. This shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. Again, it just was not reflected in the minutes, so we wanted to come back and just correct that. So, any questions on this? Okay, hearing none at this point, I'll entertain a motion to waive the town's portion of the building permit and other application fees for the Henny Penny project.
So moved.
Motion by Karen, second by Len. Is there any discussion?
How much are we talking here for?
It's about 600, something in that ballpark, about $650. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The chair votes aye, motion passes 7-0. Next item on the agenda, or excuse me, I'd like to add to the agenda, discussion and possible action on hiring the assistant, or filling, excuse me, the assistant head librarian position. Have a motion to do so.
So moved.
Motion by Nicole, second by Len. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Chair votes aye, motion passes 7-0. Next item on the agenda, discussion and possible action regarding the assistant head librarian opening. You should all have received a memo. Where you pass those out?
Yes.
And I'll read the memo into the record. It's to the Board of Selectmen dated March 1st, 2014, from Human Resources Department, Michelle Wazakowski, regarding the assistant head librarian opening. Due to Mary Ann Magda's retirement on March 28th, 2014, the assistant head librarian position is open. I ran an ad in the Waterbury Republican and posted the opening on the Seymour Town website and Contact website, which is a library networking and information group. I received one internal application from Lisa Umlar, if I'm saying her name correctly, and 64 external applications. After reviewing all the applications with Carol Ralston, current library director, and Carol's with us today, it was her opinion and recommendation that we promote Lisa Umlar into the position. Carol feels she has the skills to do the job and respect of the current team. I did conduct a formal interview with Lisa and feel she is competent to do the job. I also spoke with Mary Ann, and who also feels she's the best candidate for the job. Lisa's worked for the Seymour Public Library for 6 years. She started as a circulation assistant and after 2 years moved into the children's librarian assistant's role. Since 2008, she has worked as the circulation maintenance assistant as well as continuing to help in the children's library. Carol and I recommend that we hire Lisa as she is an internal candidate that meets the qualifications of the job. For the union contract, it states internal candidates will be given preference should they be the most qualified candidate. We're looking to hire her at a rate of $22.91 per hour, which is step one at this position in the union contract. Okay, so that is the recommendation of Carol and Michelle. Over the last few hires, we have left these decisions up to the staff to make these reviews and make recommendations to us. If you like, I can ask Lisa to come in and we can interview her at a separate time, or we can accept the recommendations of the librarian and the Director of Human Resources. Before we do that, Carol, is there anything you wanted to add? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but...
Well, I'm here to be put on the spot. No, I think Lisa is a very strong candidate, and I think it's important to, when you have a strong internal candidate, I think, and the union contract clearly points in that direction, that it's a good idea to hire from within. It helps morale, and it keeps good people in Seymour doing their job.
I agree with Carol's assessment. Does anyone have any questions for Carol?
I have a question. Did we do any of these 64, did we speak to any of those applicants? The external ones?
I believe they weeded, well, I know you made some recommendations with regard to going through some of them, and Michelle did do some pre-screening calls. But from my understanding from Michelle is that they found that Lisa was the best candidate out of the group.
Okay. We had several strange applications. This is a union position, and I think the people who applied for it that I saw didn't understand that, and that's a key issue within the kind of process. Not that they were, I think they should have been applying for my position. I think somehow they got confused or something.
I believe too, there, and I don't know the exact numbers, but there was, in this, as you know, job market, people will apply for anything. So we have several people that didn't even meet remotely the qualifications. So they were part of that 64, but are eliminated just right off the bat. So what's the pleasure of the board?
I move that we accept the recommendations of the library director and the HR director.
Second. Okay. So we have a motion made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Or Rich, I don't have to add anything to that motion, does it? No. Okay, so we have a motion by Len and a second by Paul. Is there any further discussion? Do we have to say, well, no, because she's already employed. So we don't have to say pending a background check or anything.
No,
That wouldn't-
she is your employee.
So that wouldn't apply in this case. Okay. All right. So if there's no other questions or comments, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The chair votes aye. Motion passes 7-0. Carol, if you can please let her know tomorrow to give Michelle a call, and we'll work out all the particulars over the next couple of days.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving back onto the agenda, item number 9. Discussion, take possible action on setting of annual town budget meeting for Thursday, April 24th at 7 p.m. at the Seymour Middle School.
So moved.
Motion by Nicole, second by Al. Just under discussion, as you know, the Board of Finance sets the public hearing. It's the responsibility of the Board of Finance, excuse me, the Board of Selectmen to set the annual town meeting, which we'll be doing here. The meeting needs to, based on Charter Section 12.13, subsection B, subsection A, says that this meeting must take place prior to May 1st. So we will be meeting that requirement. So can I have a motion to set the annual town meeting for the 2014-2015 budget for April 24th, 2014 at 7 p.m. at the Seymour Middle School? Motion by Al, second by Nicole. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Chair votes aye, motion passes 7-0. Next item on the agenda, item number 10, discussion, take possible action on setting of town budget referendum for Thursday, May 1st, 2014, from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the Seymour Community Center.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Karen, I think, second by Nicole. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Chair votes aye, motion passes 7-0. Item number 11, discussion to take possible action on setting a second town budget referendum for Thursday, May 15th, 2014, from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the Seymour Community Center, only if needed.
So moved.
Motion by Nicole, second by Anne Marie. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Chair votes aye, motion passes 7-0. Next item on the agenda is item number 12. Discussion take possible action on setting of third town budget referendum for Thursday, May 29th, 2014, from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the Seymour Community Center, only if needed.
So moved.
Motion by Nicole, second by Al. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The chair votes aye, motion passes 7-0. Thank you very much. Hopefully we'll not need to schedule any more than that. Item number 13, we had executive session for pending litigation for Ketterit versus the town of Seymour. But in your packets, or I should say tonight, you should have been handed out a fax that we received today. This fax came to Rory. It says, "Dear Rory, this letter is to confirm that the above matter will not be heard at tonight's Board of Selectmen meeting. Accordingly, it will be added to the agenda for the April 15th, 2014 Board of Selectmen meeting. We apologize for any inconvenience this may have caused. If you have any questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to contact me. Very truly yours, Emily C. Constantino. And she is an attorney at Howard and Ludorf. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Howard and Ludorf. Okay. So now, Rich, do we need to table these, or can we just...
You could just put it on the next agenda.
Okay. So we'll take no action on that. So we'll also take no action on item number 14, discussion and take possible action on the settlement for Ketterit versus the town of Seymour. So at this point, we will move to item number 15, presentation of the 10-year strategic planning committee. Prior to doing so, I will excuse town council with our sincere thank you at 7:26 p.m. Unless you are welcome to stay.
I think it's probably the bottom of the first and the Yankees home opener. As much as I would like to stay, I think I'm going to take the Yankees up on that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Rich.
Night, guys.
Bye.
I'll talk to you
We'll
tomorrow.
see.
Okay. You should have, as part of your packets, we had emailed out just a rough draft of it, and then as well today, you should have gotten a more formal copy. And then also on the back, there is a different report, and then also a little brochure that was made. Though this committee was just formed last month by ordinance, the group has been informally working for about the last 6 or 7 months or so. I wanted to have them come in and have Trish, on behalf of the board, do a presentation so we have an idea as to where they stood, direction that they're going, ask any questions that they may have. As you know, by ordinance, this group will need to report to the Board of Selectmen once a year on direction. And myself, the Director of Operations and the Director of Finance will need to report to this board once a quarter to review the plans and talk about direction and things. So with that, Trish, I will turn it over to you.
Well, thanks for inviting me. As you all know, I'm no longer on the Board of Finance, so I had a lot of free time on my hands and jumped right into helping out with the Strategic Planning Committee. I just want to point out, I do have quite a few members sitting at the back table today. I want to publicly acknowledge and thank them for taking on this important and project, and it's going to be a lot of work. So I really appreciate you guys. I hope you're having some fun.
Wait, Trish, I don't mean to cut you off. Is the microphone picking her up?
Look,
Are you talking to the mic? Would you mind?
You're not going to make me stand through this whole thing. I hope. Can I take this off?
Yeah.
I'm usually loud. I'm surprised you can't hear me. I also want to, oh, it's not on. Yes, it is. Can you hear me?
no, you might be dead.
I can look pretty and hold it, but it's not going to do anything.
Look, the batteries are dead. You can put it down. And thank you, though. That will go in Rory's review tomorrow morning.
Sorry, Rory. Rory is a member of our committee as well, I want to point out. I'm sorry you're not at the back table, but duly noted. I also wanted to thank everybody on the Board of Selectmen for supporting the ordinance for the Strategic Plan Committee. I think this is a historic moment for Seymour because we are now not just thinking about making good decisions today and thinking about planning for the upcoming budget year, but we're really thinking about thriving as a community by coming up with a long-term plan and figuring out where we want to go and how we're going to do that. So you should have a packet in front of you, and on one side, my committee kind of refers to this side as the fluff. It's just kind of the data of what we've been up to, what a strategic plan is. And on the other side, when we get there later, it's the actual strategic plan that we have finished to date, just so you know what you're looking at. One of the things I think it's important to know is Seymour's never had a long-term plan in writing. Not to say that nobody's ever thought about one or had communications with some key people, sent some emails, but we've never had something down in writing to really kind of map us through the next couple of years. And in order to hit the ground running, What you can expect from us in the beginning is pretty bare bones. It's going to be a basic plan so that we can start working on it immediately. We can pretty it up later with some of those other items that you see in other towns or cities who have really strong, nice big strategic plans, but there's plenty of time to do that. We also expect, because this is the first time we're going to be following this kind of roadmap, that there may be quite a few adjustments to be made in the beginning, because we're going to be learning how to follow it, learn exactly what we're able to accomplish within given periods of time, and our committee is committed to meeting and making sure that it's a working, breathing document and always kept up to date. So if those changes need to be made, they'll be implemented quickly. I know you can all read, so I am just going to kind of hit some of the highlights and what I kind of refer to as the fluff part of our report. In section 1, I just want to acknowledge that 10 years is a very broad window, and we acknowledge that, the rating agencies acknowledge that. The reason that we're starting right out at a 10-year plan and not creating a 5-year plan is simply because that is what the rating agencies are looking for. It shows that we're thinking about our future, we're trying to plan accordingly. They're looking at a 5-year window as something more short-term that we'll stick to relatively solidly, but the 6 to 10 years out, I don't want anyone thinking that it's a firm plan with absolutely no flexibility at all. They actually expect that as things come down the pike, we know how quickly things can change today, that we'll be able to make those changes as needed. I also mentioned at the bottom of that how the strategic plan can work in conjunction with a CAFR. And it's really much more than that as a financial tool. The Board of Finance has the opportunity to look at the strategic plan each year and make sure that requests coming in from the various departments, leaders in town are actually requesting items that are going to help us meet our goals. So if they're looking for something that doesn't meld with our strategic plan, there's no reason for us to be spending the money on that. We want to be using the money wisely. It also allows them, over the course of so many years, to look and see who is actually meeting their goals, to make sure that there's not any one department that is mistakenly being kind of left out in the dark because budgets are failing. We understand that that's going to be an obstacle sometimes because we don't know what money we're going to get each year. So we want to make sure that all the departments are able to move forward at least a little bit. And if the Board of Finance is looking and seeing that someone is kind of remaining stagnant and not meeting any of those goals, they can make sure that there's a year that they can start looking at that plan and maybe favoring them a little bit that year to help them move forward. In section 2, I get in a little bit more detail about the CAFR. It's only one component of it, but it's a very important component. This does go along with the MuniCast program that Kurt is recommending in his capital plan. Currently, we don't have the ability or function right now to run these kind of reports in the finance department. MuniCast is going to be a big benefit and something that will also help the strategic plan because it's helping us see exactly what our needs are. The CAFR and the strategic plan is all about communication, and it's about producing data and then what does this data mean and what are we going to do with this information. So again, the strategic plan, the MuniCast program that is being recommended to help the strategic plan is going to help across the board also with the CAFR, so everything can work together for communication purposes, data gathering, and helping us figure out if we're on the right track or if we need to be fixing anything. I know that graph doesn't mean too much to you right now, but as I was explaining to my team, this is actually a real graph that happened in a city in Australia, and one of the reasons this type of functionality and trying to look at gathering this information and doing something with it is so important is because that blue line, once they noticed it was there, that should be closer to 0. That's a structural issue, and that means that they better hit the ground running and fix that quickly, or it's going to become a huge financial problem. So it'll be interesting to see not only this, but many of the other data graphs that we will be able to obtain. Any question? I know that's a bit more complex, and I don't think you guys need to know too much about the CAFR, but I just wanted you to understand how everything kind of works together and what we're looking to do. No questions yet? Okay. Moving on to section 3, again, you can all read. I do want to acknowledge that Mr. Preet Singh has recently resigned due to some personal obligations. We just found this out a couple of days ago, so we are actively looking to replace him. Section 5, we've given you our progress to date. We'll kind of, in the actual plan, you'll see a lot of that progress in its true form, so I don't want to kind of review too much over that. Now that the ordinance has passed, we will be able to set some meeting dates with department heads, even complete departments if they're interested, other individuals to help guide us where we need to go. Any questions on that? I know I'm moving quickly, but I know you don't want to be here all night. I can talk forever. Section 6. What I want to mention before we get into the actual strategic plan that we've completed thus far, we didn't just do this as a team. We went out and found some solid resources to look at. I attended a conference and found out what the rating agencies are looking for. We worked with the finance director, Doug Thomas, for Selectman Kurt Miller, also our current Board of Finance Chairman, Bill Sawicki. We learned that debt service, you'll see at the top of section 6 exactly how the rating agencies are viewing that. Anything that is at 10% and above is considered pretty questionable, and we need to have a solid reason we're there. And guess what, folks? Seymour is at 10%. It's going to be at least 3 years before we are able to lower that. So you're going to see before you get into the financial plan that we have put in that we're recommending a 6% debt service rate. And some people are concerned that's pretty low, but after speaking with the first selectman and the finance director, the Board of Finance Chairman, we feel pretty comfortable as a small town we're able to do that. It's also not a hard and fast rule. If you look at the ranges there, it does give us a 2% window if we have an emergency or something that we deem as a dire need for the town, an opportunity that we don't have money elsewhere where to use. That still keeps us within an acceptable range, but we think keeping it at 6% is giving us the money that we need to move forward and giving us the flexibility if something comes up to still stay within that acceptable range. So if you want to take a look at the actual strategic plan that we've completed so far, you'll see that we have accomplished writing our mission, vision, and values, and we did this through brainstorming activities, a SWOT analysis, trying to remain thoughtful to everyone while being fair and kind of focusing in on those keywords and terms that we've heard the public demanding from us for so long. From the mission, vision, and values, that's where we created our goals. And we decided to put our goals within pillars to describe those various components of the plan, because those pillars are suggesting that it's supporting something much bigger than itself. And detailed below that, we have specific information on what the hard and soft infrastructure items are that we'll be taking a look at. Any questions so far? Moving on to economic health. This is the actual financial strategic plan that the committee has created. Again, I understand you can all read just a couple of points I want to throw out there. Strategic plans, they have their goals, and those goals have to be measurable. I know Len's been working hard at this over at Public Works as well, so that we can measure what we're doing. And there's deliverables to meet the goals and priorities. There's a key above there on the priorities. I completely acknowledge that you're going to see a lot of priority ones in that financial plan right now. The reason for that is it's either due to the ease of implementation, the urgency of the items that the rating agencies are coming in and looking for that's going to help us boost our rating up. And everyone understands once our rating is boosted, we do get better bond ratings. We can go out and get money, so that 6% debt service is going to take us a lot further. We've also acknowledged in the plan what the challenges are, and it will be up to the specific departments or individuals to see what those challenges are and manage them to the best of their ability, come up with a plan to maybe make them not as big a challenge as they might have been in the past. And you will notice in the plan that there are certain areas where we've recommended guidelines or policies to be implemented. Those were not just written by the committee itself. It was some of the wording on it was worked with the finance director, and a lot of it was worked with our current Board of Finance Chairman, Bill Sawicki, because he was the town's prior town auditor. And he has a lot of knowledge to back that up. I think I did pretty well on time, considering we all know I could have spoken for another 20 minutes because I'm really passionate about this, but
For you, it's an absolute miracle, so.
I think it was a record.
The board's all smiling back there, so I guess they're used to you going a little bit longer than that.
Listen, I've gotten so excited at meetings. The last meeting, I actually teared up because we were making some headway, so.
You know, just to support the 10-year strategic plan, a lot of at least the financial data that you see here is what my conversation tomorrow with S&P is going to be based on. So this is stuff that, Trish and I have been working on, being informal for the last 2+ years. And this is just kind of formalizing it. Just to give you an idea on some of the things, the first goal, the formalized fund balance guidelines, and you'll see in deliverable A how it talks about 8%. One of the things that I'll, unveil Thursday night is the town is about 173,000 above the 8% mark. So last year I asked the Board of Finance to move the floor from 5% to 6.5%. I'm going to ask them again this year to move it from 6.5% to 8%. So we're going to be able to start working the fund balance guidelines with the 2014-2015 budget, which is certainly a very good thing. When Tricia talked a little bit about the second one, the debt service goal of 6%. Right now, we're about 9.2% is our level, which, looking at the chart, we know is not necessarily the best thing. But in factoring out over the next 3 years and looking at an average increase of the town budget of 2.5%, if we sit firm where we are and don't do anything I would consider irrational or stupid, in the next 3 years we can bring that number down to 7.12%. So by controlling and understanding where we're going, we can slowly bring ourselves into these categories. So, we're definitely headed in the right direction. It's just a matter of, putting it down on paper and everybody understanding and agreeing that this is the course of action. This is not a Republican thing or a Democratic thing. This is good financial management for the town of Seymour. My vision has always been that, whoever follows me, I just essentially here's the keys to the office and here's the strategic planning book. Now that person may want to make some tweaks and changes, and that's certainly their right and priority, but they can do it with the board. And again, keep us moving in the right direction. A lot of these things just make good sense. The road program, we're continuing that in the budget. We're putting money away for reevaluation. The capital plan, so things like that. We're moving in the right direction. As I said, we've been doing a lot of this informally, but now it's going to be a little bit more of a formal process. So.
I have to say, I think this is a very strong plan, and I just want to acknowledge the benefit of this, as Mr. Miller was on the Board of Finance as chairman for quite a number of years, as was I. And again, Bill Sawicki, who's current sitting chairman, has sat on the Board of Finance for many years, now chairing it. You have 3 pretty strong individuals without anything else putting together what we know is being looked for and what will help the town thrive financially.
Questions, I'll have one.
Trish, I just had a question for you. In developing the goals, can you discuss what the process was and what your framework was and how you went about developing the goals that I'm that Kurt was just referring to. There seem to be 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, maybe, I don't know, 15 of them roughly. Can you educate us what the process was and how you went through that and how you developed?
Quite a few of them came out of the conference that I attended where it was discovered that the rating agencies are coming in and looking for a 10-year plan. The fund balance guidelines, the debt service information, a lot of this that you're seeing as a priority one came from the Conference of Municipalities
And when was that?
was attended. Excuse me?
When was that?
That was probably six-ish months before Kurt had the Strategic Planning Committee appointed as a special committee reporting to him initially in August. I want to say it was sometime
It was
the
the
first
winter.
quarter
Yeah, I want to say it was
of
January.
I'm just curious when it was.
2013.
Yeah.
Also in having meetings with Bill Sawicki, understanding he's on the Board of Finance now, but he's been a great tool to use because he was the town's former auditor. Some of this came from Kurt directly from his years on the Board of Finance, and some items that I kind of missed and didn't pick up on and worry about when I was there. The plan itself, when we were taking some notes, this was brought back to the committee, and the great thing about the team we have put together is we all kind of have different backgrounds in our specialties. So I did do a lot of explaining on where the information was derived and educated them on what the rating agencies were looking for, where they came from, what Mr. Sawicki was recommending we include in here. And we just reviewed that and then agreed what items would stay, and that's how the plan came to be. The other items, when they are going to be more department-based, when we're looking to find some efficiencies there, and that's actually going to be through meeting with the employees and the department heads to see what they're doing well, what they think their challenges are and why. And it'll be a little bit more based on department-specific feedback. Understanding, though, that this is going to affect the finance department, we did bring it back to the finance director to see if there was, especially the debt service goal, anything that he was really concerned with being in there, not being able to be accomplished, make sure he was on board with everything.
What? Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, so your other committee members had voice beyond
Oh,
Bill and Kurt.
Yeah, I don't think they'd let me do anything carte blanche without any,
I'm just.
I mean, they might, but
Maggie's shaking her head, I know that.
Don't worry.
Glenn?
Yeah, I just wanted to, number one, I want to thank you, all of you, for serving on this, the planning committee. I think this is a huge opportunity for the town to really improve itself. I know you all have, a number of you I know personally, I know you all have very different backgrounds. You bring something different to the table. One thing actually, I mean, Kurt discussed, and you discussed the financial piece, but I want to say thank you for putting in some other pieces that deal directly with the governance of the town in general. Everybody on the board here knows how much I'm looking to, how interested I am in trying to push a performance measurement initiative in the town, starting with, we started with the Public Works Department, but I'm very excited to see that you put this in the strategic plan, that it's going to be put in the plan on paper so that other people can reference it down the road and it can continue, whether I'm sitting here, or Kurt's sitting here, or Trish, you're sitting somewhere, or Mr. Baker, or anybody else, that this is going to be a part of the town moving forward. For a lot of different reasons. I mean, anybody who's a baseball fan can point to, what Billy Bean's done in Oakland and changing the face of baseball over the last 15 years. This is no different than in government in general, particularly in local government. But one question I did have for you, and I was intrigued to see some very different concepts that maybe the town hasn't necessarily considered, at least recently. Town management for one, piece of it, but the addition of zero-based budgeting. I know it's a different kind of concept than anything we've considered here in Seymour, and I don't know of any other town in Connecticut that uses this. There may be, but I'm not aware of any. Where did this come from? What made you decide to look at that versus?
That particularly was mentioned as a recommended budgeting tool at the Conference of Municipalities. Am I saying that right,
And the
municipal?
conference municipalities.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
That actually came out of that conference. Avon and Bristol may not be doing it, but they're actively looking at it all the time. For those of you who don't know what zero-based budgeting is, it means that nobody cares what you had last year. If you want money this year, justify every dollar you want. So it's not, understanding that salaries and unions are going to play a part in that, I certainly acknowledge that. It's really about justifying every dollar spent. It's not just looking at, well, I had $35,000 last year and salaries are going up, so I need a minimum of $39,000. That's not going to help the town move forward. And as you know, there's always employees out there, just for a drastic term, who get up, come to work every day, rip a piece of paper 4 times and throw it in the garbage. You ask them, why did I do that? Why are you doing that? They don't know why they're doing that. They're doing it because they've just done it every year for the last 22 years. Might not make sense anymore, and you could find some efficiencies and cost savings that way. So again, it's not so much about doing zero-based budgeting right away, because that's going to take, that is a change, and it's going to take some education, and we might not be ready to do it right now, but it is about having that discussion, putting a committee together, and looking at it every now and then to see if it's something that we want to pursue.
I asked that question. I am familiar with it, with the concept in general. I believe, I want to say the state of Washington may have tried to do this on a statewide level, if I'm not mistaken. It was some kind of a hybrid version. But I know it's been done in municipalities around the country. So I was intrigued, but there are other, I guess, schools of thought as well. I mean, there's performance-based budgeting, there's zero-based budgeting, there's all sorts of different types of approaches, I guess, if you will. I was just curious to see, I guess, to get a feel for how your committee's working and where these ideas are coming from. So that's informative. I appreciate it.
Right. Where some of these items you'll see that we're recommending committees be put forward to look at these, because this is a huge undertaking to begin with, and those items that we do think need to be looked at might be a little bit too much for us to take on as well. So we just want to get the discussion started. We might not have those other budgeting concepts in here, but they might appear in a later plan to have people look at it and make sure we're doing the right things for the right reasons.
Thank you.
What other questions? I think we started on the financial pillar, I guess, for lack of a better term, because we had a lot of these concepts in mind that we've been having discussions on them for a while, and it seemed like a good place to go to at least start a foundation and move the group forward. One of the things that I've had during the last quarterly meetings I had with department heads when they handed in their quarterly reports, which we have, so we could send out electronic copies to everyone tomorrow. I let the department heads know that the strategic planning committee would be reaching out to each one of them to sit down and have discussions, so to be prepared. So have in mind what you want for staffing or infrastructure or needs like that. So these conversations could be very in-depth. So I think that would be the next step, and that the places they would go to that, to those different pillars.
It is.
So.
And if I can mention, Mr. Smith and I have gone out to a number of departments. Mr. Smith has also spoken to some people as he's run into them at Town Hall, and some people are really excited about this because as they understand that we're not out to get them, we're out there to help them do their jobs better, get them what they think that they need. We've really put some smiles and some on their faces and glimmer in their eyes. They're actually looking forward to meeting with us and are already thinking about what they want to share with us. And that's pretty exciting.
Good.
Oh yes, and the handout that you have, that is
Mr. Smith.
the brochure that you have. We have not handed that out. That was just recently created by one of our members that was unable to be here tonight. But hoping to give this out to the employees just so they can start thinking about their upcoming session and provide some meaningful feedback.
Okay, what other questions does everyone have?
Actually, just for a second time.
Sure, absolutely.
Just to kind of to build off of what you just said there, I want to kind of reiterate this and encourage you to continue to push this, I guess the marketing plan, whatever you want to call it, for this to the employees. I know Paul and Karen have raised some concerns about what I had proposed with Public Works with regard to the performance measurement initiative. They voiced concerns that the employees would push back. This I can definitely see an initial tendency to push back a little bit by the employees, but I'm glad to hear that the members of the committee and the administration in general are trying to make sure that the employees understand that this is actually to help, not only help the town do better, but also help them do their jobs more efficiently, make their lives easier, and I think that's an important message to get across. So I want to continue to push that, and I want to encourage you to continue that as well. Thank you.
Karen?
Yeah, I'd like to say that initially I thought that what was being proposed was going to be punitive, but I think that you're putting a positive spin on this, and I think that, I trust you, I trust your committee, and I think that it's going to be good for the town
Thank you.
overall.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're trying to, to Karen's point, we're trying to design this that it's not political, that this is just, it's good finance, this is good management. Like I said, I'm really looking forward to handing this book to the next person with the keys and saying, and Rory, and saying, here you go. Continue on, we build some good foundational blocks, and we need to keep moving that forward year after year, irregardless of who's here. So, it's certainly a very, very good thing. Just the other thing too, I just want to point out on the priorities, they're labeled 1, 2, and 3, so high, medium, and low. So some things, we understand that we can't take care of right away, but we need to start considering them. As an example, our OPEB liability, I believe, is $42.9 million. Obviously, we can't address that in 1 year, but what the rating agencies want to see is that we have an understanding of what it is and how we potentially could address that. I don't want anybody to get nervous. We pay these benefits on an annual basis as we go, but that's not the way the auditors look at it. So, just some different things like that. So.
Can I just echo what Len was saying before? I just want to ask Trish. So what Len's saying, you might have that classic implementation dip or zone of dissonance or whatever certain researchers call it when you institute something that's different and there's change. That's natural, that's proven, and when you have that little dip, the research shows if you stop there, that's deadly for whatever you're trying to change. In research there's all kinds of research on that by folks, I'm sure you know that. So the last thing you'd want to do is quit that juncture. So keep pushing forward with it, get through that little fuzzy zone where people get a little bit concerned about things, or it's change and they're not sure how it's going to affect them. And like you said, you have to educate them. You have to let them know this is not a punitive measure. It's to improve town performance, improve their performance, improve efficiency. It's actually job security. So
a lot of it is
get
to
past
make
that.
their jobs easier.
Right.
And a lot of us, everyone they're good cheerleaders. So we're going to work through some of that. We're prepared for a little bit of questionable eyes to start, and we're going to work through it.
Sure. So
Because the more meaningful information we can get from people, the better it's going to be, and it's going to be something everybody can be proud of that had their hands in it.
because I've seen it in my job, and we're currently feeling that as a state with the Common Core controversies and issues. So I think once you get through something, it's change. Change is never easy, and I'm not saying I'm for or against Common Core. I'm just saying change is never easy. So
I think
keep
it's about
battling
good
through it.
communication, and once they understand it's to make their jobs easier, make their jobs better, they'll actually might like coming to work because they're getting what they need. Of course, everyone understands we're not going to fix everything in 10 years, but we've got to start someplace. So maybe
Absolutely.
20 years from now, we start seeing quite a bit of improvement from where we're standing today.
Yeah, we need a plan. Town needs a plan. So this is great. And thank you all for your volunteer efforts with it, because I know it's a lot of work. Thank you.
Myself, Doug, and Tony are preparing to sit before the board in July. If they're ready to at least work on the financial piece. At that point, we'll have been through the budget process, hopefully, and we should be able to address those issues. And then, again, every quarter, the three of us will be required to meet by ordinance with the board to address where we stand in the plan and how we're moving forward. And again, the board will present to this board in December for course of action for the following year. So, any other questions or comments? No? Chris, thank you.
I just have one from my experience in
Carrie can't. Sorry. So, I just want to thank the board for their time. Carol, you can, during public comment, you can.
Okay.
Thank you, the board, for their service. I know it's a very good group that we've put together. Preet will certainly be missed, but we're trying to find someone to replace him. And again, it's, you know, I don't want to say we handpick these people, but everyone in this group has a very specific background that fits nicely together. So we're going to look for that person to replace Preet that brings that same dynamic that Preet did to the table. So with that, thank you, Trish, and thank you to the board.
Thanks for having us.
Okay, item number 16, appointments. We have 2 appointments this evening. Christine Elliman, Economic Development Commission. It's a new appointment for a 3-year term, expires April 1st, 2017. I have a motion to do so.
So,
Motion by
Second.
Nicole, second by Len. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Chair votes aye, motion passes 7-0. Mike Magat, Board, or Ethics Board. It's a reappointment for a 4-year term, expires April 6th, 2018.
So moved.
Motion by Karen.
Second.
Second by Al. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Chair votes aye, motion passes 7-0. Next item on the agenda, tax refunds and abatements, and we don't have any for today, which is, not to give any money back, which is certainly a nice thing. Item number 18, transfers. We also have no transfers as well. Item number 19, correspondence. We have a few things. We have the check register. We have an article on Firehouse eyed as a cell site. This was forwarded on to me from a resident. I think I forwarded this out to everybody, but I wanted to include a copy. There actually was another one, and I apologize, about a cell tower near a church and how it was picketed. Did I send that one out to everybody?
No.
No? I apologize, I just got that in the last few days, so I'll send that out as well. Because again, I'm trying to show things on both sides. This is a letter that we just received today. This is from the Gazeys about the farmers market being held at the community center, Pine Street, May 13th through November 18th. So what we'll do is we'll have this on our agenda for the next meeting where we will approve this like we usually do. Well, I mean, we'll have the board's option to approve it. And then we have the updated numbers through February of the discount prescription card that the Board of Selectmen put in last year. To date, we've saved Seymour residents a little over $13,000 with their prescriptions, so it certainly was a good thing that we put into place for them. So that closes correspondence. Item number 20, public comment. Please state your name and address for the record. Carol, if you'd like to
well,
speak.
okay, Carol Ralston, Library Director. I just wanted to mention that over my 43-year career in libraries, I served in 2 different libraries where we did zero-based budgeting initiatives, and they were successful for 2 reasons, I think. There was a lot of cross-departmental discussions. We looked at everything from the point of view as, do we need it? If we need it, why? Those questions brought out a lot of things we found we didn't need. And we tightened up the operations and saved money.
Thank you, Carol. Is there any other public comment? Is there any other public comment? Last time we'll close public comment. Selectmen's public comment. Carol.
I just have a couple of things. First of all, I want to acknowledge that I got an email, and I don't know if everybody got an email from Teresa regarding my request about putting the gas directions on the sign off of Route 8.
We didn't know.
Okay, I got an email from Teresa saying that the Public Works, Connecticut Public Works is going, they've acknowledged the request and they're going to be reapplying that
Excellent.
to the sign
Excellent.
before exit 22.
Excellent. Nice.
Also, I saw an article in the newspaper about a $1,000 donation from the Seymour Police Department to the Memorial Day Parade, and I was just going to ask, where did that money go? Is it in the general fund?
No, it goes to, they have a special revenue account. The money was deposited in
Okay, and what is that money designated for?
that. It's spent on expenses for the parade. They use it to contract the bands in advance, I guess. If you want to have bands, you need to sign a contract and give them some money up front.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So-
And then I spoke with Chief Metzler yesterday when I was getting my agenda, and he and I spoke at length about the time frame for the demolition of Seymour lumber and the way that it's going to be done. And he indicated to me yesterday that the permits, the demolition permits have not been pulled yet. So I wondered if there is a time frame that you're aware of with regard, he did indicate to me that the building is going to be demolished backwards, away from 67, and that it really probably will not have an effect on the traffic on 67, except maybe for one lane for a short period of time. But do you have any time frame for the demolition of the building?
Initially, they were looking at the 7th, 8th, and 9th of April, but they need a special permit from the state. Most of that was worked out today. We needed a letter of, we needed to essentially condemn the building to allow them to take the building down hot. I spoke with Jim Galligan today. He was putting that letter together, which we give to Jim Baldwin. Jim Baldwin would then enact that to condemn the building. Essentially, they're saying the building, the workers can't go in to do the remediation. The building's not safe. So that's what they're condemning. So they're going to take the building down hot, and it will be taken off-site a little bit differently than if it was remediated first and then taken off. That cost is going to be absorbed by the Koch family. They're aware of that. So I was with Mr. Koch today. I expect that should be taken care of by the end of the week. They'll pull the permit, and demolition will begin almost immediately.
And then my understanding, I spoke with somebody else, is that it's going to be put on the market for $1 million.
I can't speak to that. I don't know. So, I mean, I know conversations that the Koch family has had with the developer, and the number was lower than $1 million. So,
Okay.
I know that. But, I mean, I'm not at liberty to say what that was. So, but I can say it's lower than $1 million. The property next door, I do believe, is still 1.4, 1.5
The
million.
factory.
Yeah. That's the reason why I said. Okay, thanks, Karen. Paul?
Well, I think the thing that I'd like to say is, it's getting back to this strategic planning committee here, and what we recognize is that there's people naturally push back, and that's why I always insist that communication is important. And I think that I expressed that to Trish, to make sure that everybody knows what's going on when you're going to be making these changes, and I appreciate that you're going to work that way. And that's what I was talking about with Len as well, down at Public Works. Make sure all the employees know what's going on. And I think that's important, this communication, because people do get nervous and they assume things or whatever. But as long as you keep the line of communications open, I think this could be successful.
Yeah, I'm going to reiterate this quarter as well when I meet with the department heads, go through their quarterly reports. I'm going to reiterate that. I know that's something that the Strategic Planning Committee is working on, potentially changing the quarterly reports a little bit, so they change the way the information comes in, which would help them do their job ongoing a little bit easier. But I'm going to reiterate the fact of these conversations are going to be had for those that didn't have them, so that, to your point, the communication stays open.
Thanks.
You certainly will. Nicole?
Again, Trish and the Strategic Planning Committee, thank you for taking on this large task of moving our town forward. I think I have complete faith in the people that are on your committee to make this plan perfect for our town and whatever encompasses it. Echoing my fellow board members, implementing it in the way you're doing it, letting the people know. You'll have some pushbacks, and that's fine. You know that you've dealt with that before. You're explaining it the way you need to, and I'm sure they will accept it, wholeheartedly, and move our town forward, like we said. But again, I just want to thank you all for being on the committee, and good luck.
Thank you, Nicole. Al? Well, that's the first. Anne Marie?
Is that enough?
Someone asked about the swing sets out of the French parks. Were they taken down?
Swing sets were taken down on the recommendation of our liability carrier, H.D. Sager. They have a consultant that's all he does. Jean-Luc Robert, I believe is his name. The swing sets were, all the playground equipment that was removed was deemed unsafe. So we took it down.
Will they be getting a new swing set up there?
We could potentially, but, you know, for the people who say that we're not putting any money into French Park, Steve Grant just went to put in new tennis courts, the baseball field was completely redone, capital plan is putting lights for a new flagpole, we're working on putting in a new monument for, you know, Veterans Grove. I would challenge those people to say that French Memorial Park is being ignored and not being taken care of. And some of this was started back with Paul too, so, you know, this has been an ongoing thing. This has not been a park that's just been forgotten. And I think we can say at least for the last 4 or 5 years it's been addressed.
And on 34, across from the gas station, the flag that's in that old cemetery, it's a veteran cemetery, is ripped, torn, and the rope lanyard is broken. And the last time it was done was by residents, and the time before that was done by the Oxford American Legion.
I'm trying to think where that is.
On 34, heading towards Monroe. Diagonally across from...
Remember the river? Yeah. 34, that whole section.
I'm just finding
Town
how,
you guys talk about all the time.
I'm just trying to go over how ironic it is that I have no idea where the cemetery is. That's the bigger
There was
piece I'm trying
there
to
was a
get
big
over.
issue over who was gonna take care of it when I was first selectman.
Right.
And the American Legion did get some of the grass cut and that sort of thing, but it's down there on the river.
But it's a town cemetery.
Yeah.
Well, a town cemetery. It's a cemetery that's in our town. It's a veteran cemetery. It's an old cemetery.
Talk with Mike Kearney about it, he'll give you a little background.
Oh.
Brooke, can you make that note and find out from Mike tomorrow? Yep, we'll get on that tomorrow. I'm more embarrassed I don't know where the cemetery is.
It's hard, I mean, it's easy to miss when you go by,
Go
it's
down
easy to
Squanza,
miss.
take a right.
It's,
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Once you take a right.
Wow, okay, I don't know where it is, so, yeah,
It's a
we'll
small cemetery.
we'll look into it tomorrow, we'll talk to Mike.
you know, the gas station's up in Olympia.
Yes.
Anyway, the long-term capital thing, I just had a question about the oil tanks. 120,000 going all the way to 2019, 2020. Is that removal of all underground storage tanks throughout the town of Seymour in town buildings?
That's our goal, yes. That's our goal.
There, all right.
We're still trying to discover how many there are and where they all are.
I did attend the Mudcat fundraiser over at Hot Tamales on Saturday night. It was very well attended. All the kids were there. It was really great. And to thank the Strategic Planning Committee for all your hard work. It was a wonderful presentation. Thank you for explaining it and taking the time and all your hard work and dedication. It is greatly appreciated. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. Len?
I would like to share Al's sentiments.
Wow.
I'm good.
That's a lot of first tonight. Okay, I have no additional comments.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion to adjourn made by Anne Marie, second by Al. Is there any additional questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?